And I'm delighted to be with you all this morning. I can actually see all your faces on my screen, so that's good. I like that. I want to tell you a little bit about myself as an introduction. I live in Boise, Idaho. I've lived here for a long time, and I've had a kind of varied background. I've worked in many different areas, and I've been a cook in the Idaho backcountry, and I've been worked for the Forest Service, and I had my own consulting firm and traveled around the world. And it seems like when you've lived a while in your life, you've got a lot of different experiences. And one of the things that I will share about today is my love of the dark night sky. And part of that is because as a child, we spent time every year in the desert. And this was back when there was not so many people, and not so many lights. So the sky was truly dark. And we slept outside underneath the stars. And I would look up and see this dark night sky as I woke in the middle of the night. And I would be sleeping with my parents and my siblings in a little group. So we all slept outside together. It was really a wonderful memory that I've carried with me. And it's been very much a teaching in my own life to value the dark night sky. So today our theme is waking up with Mother Earth. Oh, I wanted just to add about my practice that in 1990, my dear friend Peggy Rowe went on retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh, and she started our Sangha here in Boise. She's still a dear friend of mine. Many of you likely know her. And so that is also part of who I am, is my history in this practice and my love of Thai and the community, and my gratitude to my friends on the path who've brought me to where I am today, and being so happy and being with you. So the book that I worked with to develop this talk and around the theme of waking up with Mother Earth is The Sun, My Heart. And it's an older book of Thais, and I think it's been reissued recently, but it contains many wonderful teachings. And waking up with Mother Earth is a way for us to look at the sun of awareness, or the shining light of Mother Earth, just as she is. And no matter what's going on, whether there's forest fires or raging storms, rising waters, and all the soft light that filters through trees, the oceans, smiling children, calm lakes, all of these are contained and held in this sun of awareness. And we shine light on all of these with our awareness. Our tradition asks us to water the seeds of happiness in our minds and hearts. And I have a little card from Thai where he says, what is most important is to find peace and to share it with others. And so today, while we talk about Mother Earth, we'll also remember Thai's words to find peace in our own hearts. Recently, I watched a beautiful video, and it was very inspiring. It reminded me of our practice. And it was a video of a survivor from Hiroshima, he's an older man now, obviously, but when he was a young boy, about 6 years old, after the bombing in Hiroshima, he actually climbed out from under the rubble, and he had survived, which is a miracle in and of itself. But the first thing he saw was a blade of grass, green grass growing up from the earth. And something in him, even as a little boy, felt inspired by that little blade of grass. And I think this is an example of how Mother Earth shows up in the most difficult times with being just who she is. And so he has now come forth to say we need to bring peace into our lives and to let go of any hopelessness that we might have. And no matter the tragedies or the losses that may come to us, that we can trust Mother Earth and not be overcome, but set instead to find peace. And that very much, it seems very much resonates with Thay's message of being peace in the world. So I'd like to also offer a reading from The Sun, My Heart. And it's, the title of this is, Everything Depends on Your Peace. If the earth were your body, you could feel the many areas where there is suffering. War, suppression, and famine wreak destruction in so many places. Many children have become blind from malnutrition. Their hands search through mounds of trash for things they can trade for a few ounces of food. Many adults are dying slowly and hopelessly in prisons. Others are killed for trying to oppose the violence. We have enough nuclear weapons to destroy dozens of Earths, but we continue to manufacture more. Aware of all of this, how can we withdraw to a forest or even to our own rooms to sit in meditation? The peace we seek cannot be our personal possession. We need to find an inner peace which makes it possible for us to become one with those who suffer and to do something to help our brothers and sisters, which is to say, to help ourselves. I know many young people who are aware of the real situation of the world and who are filled with compassion. They refuse to hide themselves in artificial peace, and they engage in the world in order to change the society. They know what they want, yet after a period of involvement, they become discouraged. Why? It is because they lack deep inner peace, the kind of peace they can take with them into their life of action. Our strength is not in weapons, money, or power. Our strength is in our peace, the peace within us. This peace makes us indestructible. We must have peace while taking care of those we love and those we want to protect. Let us listen to the sound of the bell. Dear friends, I'll invite the bell again and we'll begin a guided meditation. Please enjoy your breathing. As I breathe in and breathe out, I am aware of my body breathing. I am aware of the sensation of breathing in and breathing out, the sensations of breathing in my body. With each breath, my body softens and relaxes. With a relaxed body, I feel my heart beating. With each breath, I soften my heart. With each breath, I feel my heart shining like the sun, bright and clear. So, dear friends, thank you for your practice. And I wonder sometimes, because Thich entitled that book, The Sun, My Heart, that this feeling of brightness in our hearts that shines forth, which we know, if any of you have had the good fortune of being with Thich, that he radiates that kind of lightness, but also that kind of brightness, and so we can practice that in our own meditations. So in our practice, we can learn from Thai's book, The Sun, My Heart. And in that book, he tells us we must use our own eyes and our own language, the language of our times, to express any of the insights that we have. And that wisdom is a living stream. It's not an icon. It's not an inanimate thing. It lives within us. And using our own eyes and our own language means that we don't just repeat things that we've read, but we take the time to really digest, to savor, and make the words that are in the books our own. And that's that's very different, as most of us know, who've practiced for a while, to develop a sense of your own feeling, your own way of being with our practice, our own way of being peaceful, and what it feels like in our own bodies and minds. So when I say being with our bodies and minds and being present with them, what is really required very much is patience. Our lives are so busy. I don't know if it's true for everyone, but it feels as if between emails and people we talk to, and if you watch the news, which I don't very much, but any of those actions are always asking us to come out of ourselves. And our practice really asks us to turn around and take our seat, to come into a place of calm and ease, and to water the seeds of happiness, of joy, of loving kindness, so that we can offer that to ourselves, but also to others. And this kind of way of being in the world is a form of antidote to the suffering and to the fear and concern that can naturally arise. I think it's Thich who speaks about cradling the baby, cradling ourselves like a baby who's crying when we feel that we're in difficulty, or we feel angry or deeply sad, that we can come home to our bodies and our breath and hold ourselves. And that also gives us the capacity to hold others. In my work as a chaplain, I occasionally find myself in situations where people are suffering greatly. And of course, when there's that kind of suffering, someone has died or they're very sick or about to die, the invitation that we can offer with our presence is to simply be calm, to be that calm person in the middle of the storm. And there's a way that provides a refuge for those who are suffering. And as we are in the world now with much concern and worry, to not avoid feeling or seeing these things that concern us. Let's see, someone must have their mic on.
Michele, your mic is on.
We can use that rumbling sound as a bell of mindfulness. And I'll invite the bell just to bring us back. So patience is a kind of antidote to the constant, really intrusion in our lives of media and news. And I personally want to know the headlines, but I don't want to know too many of the details because I can get caught in that story just like everyone else. And yet I don't want to look away either. And I think Thich has very much said, no, we stand like the lotus in the sea of fire. We stand in the center of it all, holding our minds and our bodies in a peaceful way, a loving way, being nourished by that, but also nourishing others and then being nourished by their practice. Mother Earth is always turning on her axis. She's always revolving around the sun. And she's a very ancient planet. She's seen so many things. And her response to the conditions that we've created is the wise response based on all the evolution, all the eons of time in which our Mother Earth has been being who she is and becoming more and more, adapting. Rivers have changed their channels, oceans have moved, lands have changed. We know this. And so we're here now, just right in the middle of it, middle of a lot of change that has been occasioned by much of human activity, as we all know. In Thai's book, Old Path, White Clouds, there's a story of when Shariputra first encountered the teachings of the Buddha. And he pleaded when he first heard some of the teachings, according to Old Path, White Clouds, he pleaded, oh, what is this? Give me just a taste of the teachings of this Buddha, because he wasn't there at that time. There was someone else. And the person that was there, which in Old Path, White Clouds is Asaji or Aji, and Aji smiled and he said this Gata, from interdependent origins, all this arises, and all things arise and all things pass away. So teaches the perfectly enlightened one. And Shariputra was delighted. That's what it says in Old Path, White Clouds. So this recognition that all things arise and pass away and they are all interdependent. This is something that while, we can, at least in my own practice, I can struggle a bit in my mind with it all. And yet there's a way I can see it, especially when I watch my grandchildren play. I see in them my own sons and how they were when they were little. And this informs my life. And I think for each one of us, our friends, our family, can also be our teachers as we watch them change and grow. And knowing that they're impermanent and that we're impermanent. And yet loving them deeply and nourishing them with every chance we get. Our practice is to be open-hearted, gentle, and kind, and encourages us not to get too caught in form, but to be present with our bodies and our surroundings. And that presence is our awareness. It is our practice of mindfulness. to breathe in and breathe out, and simply open our eyes and our hearts to what's right in front of us. And that includes all of it. Let us listen again to the sound of the bell. Some of you may remember a song that was popular a long time ago. It was sung by Melanie, who I don't even know. She was a popular songstress a long time ago. And she sang a wonderful song that I think it was called A Baby Day. And the words, the little refrain that I often say to myself is, why sleep when sleep only closes up our eyes? Why sleep when you can watch the sunrise? The sunrise, if you get a chance to see the sunrise, and you have to make I think if your life's anything like mine, I have to decide, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get up early, I'm going to watch the sunrise. And where I live, there's mountains, so I can see it, especially in winter when the trees are bare. I can see it, and there's that moment. It hasn't risen yet, but it's this moment of bright light, and you know it's just a breath away that sun is going to actually rise over the top of the hill, or over the ocean, or over the cityscape, whatever it is. And watching the sun rise is a great practice to nourish the sun in our own hearts, to bring that bright light of a new day into our day, our lives, and let it inspire us, let it nourish us deeply, so that we can be present with everything that is unfolding in our lives. As Mother Earth wakes up every morning, she wakes up wherever we are. We know that it's actually us turning that's happening. She's just there holding still. But we see her rise above the horizon, and that baby day is born. And it's such an inspiration to us. And simply, much like the yin-yang symbol that has all the lightness with the little dark and all the darkness with the little light, we can be with that bright light and yet not, and hold ourselves if there's suffering there, if there's any kind of concern or worry that's there. We can hold them both with the inspiration of the rising sun. And I wanted to share an experience with you that I had in my life. I had the good fortune to, well, actually, I got a job in the backcountry of Idaho, and some of you might know there's a large wilderness area in the center of Idaho. And I was back there. I was a backcountry cook for a short period of time, a couple of months. But I was a couple of months in the backcountry, away from any news. Or any, I had horses, no vehicles, planes sometimes flying in. But one of the things that I saw there, it reminded me of some experiences I had as a child, was looking at the dark night sky. And if you can be, just like being with the sunrise, to be with the dark night sky, to look up and see the stars, and see the darkness, it touches something deeply. It can touch something deeply within us. It's a kind of meditation to be with the dark night sky. And in some places, finding a dark night sky is just in and of itself a pilgrimage to go to a place where the sky is dark enough. Here in Idaho, I just read yesterday, we're actually a dark sky reserve, which is wonderful, because where that reserve is, I've gone for many years to practice, to take kind of a mini retreat where I can go and know that when the sky turns dark, it'll be very dark, and I can see that darkness and be with it. And in the backcountry, it was very dark. And it was a wonderful opportunity because there was also no background sound of the city. So it was, sometimes we hear the words, the silence is deafening. It was a bit like that at times, where it was so silent. And yet, and while that was many years ago, I touched it. I can touch it now in my practice, and I can touch it in my life. And so I encourage you to find a way of having something similar, whether that's sitting by the ocean or a creek, or even listening on your computer to water falling, or scenes of the night sky, which are now available online. We can touch again that very ancient part of ourselves that is so nourished and so familiar in a way with the dark night sky. I was, as some of you may know, I was recently in Plum Village, and I was in Middle Hamlet. And so in the mornings, around between 5 and 5:30, I would be walking from Middle Hamlet to Lower Hamlet. And I would stop and look up, and it was very much a dark night sky there. Maybe not as dark as some places, but it was beautiful with the rolling hills. And we can also see that at Deer Park. If you ever make it there, there's also times that you can go up on the hill and watch the dark night sky. We can practice anywhere in our lives, but very much nature is a wonderful place to practice. We know that, like everything else, climate change arises from causes and conditions. And our practice, individually and collectively, is to create the causes and conditions for love, compassion, and resilience in our life. And resilience is the capacity really to hold your seat in the midst of much change. And we can do this through our practice, through Thai's practice, through our communities and how we support and nurture each other. So there is a little saying about the finger that's pointing to the moon. It's Thai's teaching. To not think that the finger is the moon, but it's only pointing. So our teachings are like that. They point to a place of discovery that we make in our own hearts. And we find in our own hearts that the sun of our own hearts, the sun of understanding and compassion and joy. So let us listen once again to the sound of the bell.